Hello, hi, and welcome. If you are new here, my name is Sarah, and this is Wicked Reading. So back in September of 2024, I posted a video where I created a horror bingo reading challenge to last from October of last year until pretty much the end of September/October of this year. So I wanted to make an update video and check in on my personal progress on my own reading challenge and a revised TBR and just a general check-in on how it's been going for me, the books I've read for it so far, and what I plan to potentially read for it moving forward, because at the point of me filming this, I have pretty much 5 months if I want to accomplish my original goal of blacking out the entire board. But here's where my current board stands. So my initial plan was to completely black out the board in all hard mode. Now I am already revising that because I was going through my physical TBR and there's quite a few books I don't have currently for hard mode, and I really just want to focus on my physical TBR. So I revised my TBR a little bit and the books that I plan to read for the remaining spaces. And also there's a lot of books on my board right now that I never talked about previously, so we'll talk about those too. But pretty much what I'm trying to get at and say is that I will probably not be blacking out the board, but I definitely won't be blacking out the board in all hard mode, because not all the books on my new revised TBR do cover hard mode. And then there's two blocks in particular, two spaces in particular, that I'm having a hard time with, even just on easy mode. And I don't really know if I have a book for it. I have a book that might work. It might be stretching it, but let's go through the board together. So the very first space was published in 2024, and the hard mode was to read it in 2024. I did accomplish this, and I ended up using the book Such Lovely Skin by Tatiana Chalote Bonnet, I believe is how you say her name. And I did finish it in hard mode. I did read that in 2024, so that spot is good to go. I think initially my plan might have been either Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle or Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay. I have Bury Your Gaze, but I haven't read it yet. And then I never even got Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay. So that book is not currently even on my radar. The next spot is The End Times Are Near. This is for a book that is considered apocalyptic. It could be pre, post, apocalyptic, whatever type of apocalyptic book you want to go for. The hard mode is to read one that includes an epilogue. I don't own any books with an epilogue. My planned book is not something that I own. So now I have 2 books to pick from that I already did own. And the first one is All the Fiends of Hell by Adam Neville. This is like an alien apocalyptic set book. Or my other option is now The Unworthy by Agustina Bazterrica. This is a recent published book in 2025 that I recently received through my Nightworms package. So currently one of these books I'm hoping to read by the time the challenge is over, but neither of these have an epilogue, so neither of these will count for hard mode. The next spot is This Is Halloween. So this was a book that took place either on Halloween or around Halloween in the spooky season, but for hard mode it had to have mentioned trick-or-treating somehow, some way within the book, and I did actually accomplish this with hard mode. And to do that, I read William by Mason Coyle. This is actually more of a tech robot/AI horror, but it did happen to take place on Halloween, and at one point they mentioned kids trick-or-treating outside, so I ended up using it for this spot. It was not my planned book. My original planned book was Dark Harvest by I want to say like Norman something, I don't know, his name is in the title. I did end up listening to that, but it didn't count for hard mode, so I didn't use it for that spot at the time. After that, we have Blood on the Cover. So this is a book with blood on the cover, and for hard mode it was supposed to make up kind of like the majority of the cover. A very prominent image on the cover, and I did read my planned book for this, which was Blood Covenant by Alan Baxter. I actually have a vlog of me reading this. If you want to check that out, I do not recommend this book, but yeah, I do have a vlog of me reading that, and I checked that one off. The next spot is Woods/Wilderness. So this is a book that the majority of the setting takes place in the woods or the wilderness, and the hard mode for this was for there to not be any trees on the cover. So I still am sticking with my original planned book for this, and that is The Ruins by Scott Smith. I just have been waiting for it to be more of summer, more warmer, because this takes place in like the Mexican wilderness. I believe it's the Mexican wilderness. They're like on vacation or something. So I've been kind of purposely not reading this one yet because I wanted to wait until the season felt appropriate. So I do still plan to read this and use this for that spot, and it would still count for hard mode because while there is like a flower on the cover, there's no trees. Moving down to the next row, the first box is Honoring the Classics. So this spot was for a book that either is a retelling or a reimagining of a horror classic, but for hard mode it would have had to be a true classic because then you'd be reading a book that was published before 1950. My original planned book for this was Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier or something like that. I think it's a French last name, so I never know how to say it right. I don't feel confident though that I will read that. I do have it, I do own it physically, but I don't feel like I will if I'm being honest, especially within the next 5 months. I don't think I will because it feels like a autumn book. If anything, I would read it in autumn, and obviously by then the challenge is over for this board, so I don't feel confident that I will read that. So one of my potential books that I will read is The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein by Kirsten White. So this would just be easy mode because this is a reimagining of Frankenstein, and I feel like I will definitely get to this before I get to Rebecca, but this spot still is not even like a guarantee because I might use this for another spot that I'm also having a difficult time with. This is one of the spots that I was having a particularly hard time with. I don't know why I put it on the board. I put it on the board because I know I'm so bad at reading classics and I wanted to push myself to do it, but here we are, me not doing it. I might potentially read this for it, but we'll see. After that was translated work. So this was a horror book that was translated from the author's native language to whatever language you can read. And the hard mode for this was that it included an author's note. My planned book for this was Nefando by Monica Ojeda. I did technically start the book, but I had to kind of set it aside. It was a little heavier than I expected and I just wasn't getting into it. So I set it aside and I really have almost like no desire to pick it back up. So I ended up filling this spot with a book that only covers easy mode, but that was Confessions by Kane Minato. I recently read this one. I also have a vlog of me reading this if you want to check it out. I actually read it for the TBR game swap that I did with Cassidy from Covers with Cassidy, so you can check out my reactions and my thoughts of that book there, but that was originally written in Japanese and translated to English for me to read. Next is Cover Pick, and this is a book that you picked based off of the cover, and the hard mode is that it was a very true cover pick because you go into the book blind and you don't know what the synopsis is. I do still have my original planned book that I still want to read for this spot, and that is The Honeys by Ryan LaSala. I don't know anything about this other than it's a YA horror, and that's all I got, but I love this cover. I think it's so pretty, so I'm still gonna read this, but I was also purposely putting it off a little bit because I think it's like a spring or summertime, based on the cover, spring or summertime type of vibe. I think it happens in like warm seasons, so I was purposely waiting for the hotter months to come. The next spot was Reaper Read. So this was a book where grief was a big theme of the story, and hard mode was that grief or death was personified itself in some type of physical being. And for this I did complete hard mode and I filled it in with Monstrilio by Gerardo Samano Cordova. This was my original planned book, and I also have a vlog of me reading this if you're interested in checking that out, but that spot is all good to go. After that is Title Has a Spooky Word. So this is a book where the title has a spooky word, which is pretty much anything you can think of: monster, ghost, grave, whatever word seems spooky to you. And hard mode is that it had 2 or more words. I don't remember what my original planned book was, if I'm being honest, but I was looking through my shelves and I don't have one. So I have a few options for easy mode that I want to share with you guys that I think I might read within the next 5 months, but none of these would count for hard mode. But the first one is Delicious Monsters by Liselle Sambury. So monsters is a spooky word in this title. Another option I have is Blood on Her Tongue by Johanna Van Vee. This is another new recent release, and blood is in the title, so I would count that. I don't know that I'll read this one just because this also feels a little bit more autumn to me, so I might not actually pick this up within the next few months, but it is an option I have on my shelves. And then the next one I pulled is Gallows Hill by Darcy Coates. This has shown up on a few TBRs for me, and gallows, I would say that that's a spooky word, so I might try to push myself to finally read this and use the book for that spot. The next spot is Dead Man Walking. This one I have not done yet, and this is the other one that's giving me kind of a hard time if I'm trying to pick just from my shelves. This is a book that either has just reanimated corpses or zombies in general, and hard mode is that it's part of a series. I definitely won't hit hard mode for this. I don't even know if I'm going to hit this spot at all, because I think that currently the only book I know for sure, well, not even for sure, but I know with like greater than 90% possibility would fit this is, again, The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein, because it's a retelling of Frankenstein. So I'm thinking that there's going to be a reanimated monster in the story, but I actually don't really know for sure. But depending on how closely it's following the original story, Frankenstein obviously has a reanimated corpse in it, but obviously not part of a series. But this could potentially also work for that spot, which would also leave Honoring the Classics blank. So most likely one of those spots is not going to get filled for me, if not either of them, but we'll see. The next spot was genre blending. So this is any book that mixes horror with another genre, and the hard mode was for it to be mixed with a genre you don't typically read. I stretched this one a little bit, and I did count We Used to Live Here by Marcus Kluwer for this spot for hard mode for me, because I think that this is a little bit more of a horror thriller, and thriller is a type of genre I specifically don't like. So not one I typically read, because I'm kind of a hater on thriller, but I ended up using this for that spot, so that one is checked off. After that is a 5-star read. So this was a book that you ended up giving 5 stars to, and the hard mode was that you predicted it to be 5 stars. I filled this out with a 5-star book, but if I'm being honest, I did not think it was going to be a 5-star. I didn't think I wasn't going to like it, but I just didn't go into it expecting it to be a 5-star. So I filled it in with Ghost Eaters by Clay McLeod Chapman. I really loved this story, and it really surprised me. So this is counting kind of more so just as easy mode, but I do have a vlog of me reading this as well if you're interested in that. Next was a BIPOC author. So this is a horror book written by a BIPOC author, and the hard mode was that it was an author that was new to you. So I did complete this with hard mode by reading Bat Eater by Kylie Lee Baker. This was a very recent read for me. I really enjoyed this one, and I was happy to have it on my board. I think my original plan was any book by Tananarive Due, because I do really want to check out her works, but I don't currently own anything physically, and I did also cancel my Kindle Unlimited subscription, which was my original plan, was to read one of her books through there, because a lot of her books are on KU, but I don't currently have it. So other than the library, I don't currently have easy access to it. So I just filled it in with what I already had owned. The next spot is Cryptid. So this was a book with a cryptid creature, and the hard mode version was that you didn't know anything about the lore of the creature or about the creature being in the book previously. So for this, I ended up using Near the Bone by Christina Henry. This is a monster story. If I'm being honest, I don't know that it was technically a cryptid. Like, the monster is not really titled, I guess, or named. So it is a bit of a stretch for me using it, but there's theories on what the creature was, and some of the theories do align with cryptid creatures. I'm stretching this one, but I used it for it. Next one is Title Has a Number, and the hard mode version of this is that the title also includes a quantitative word of some type. Midnight, hour, a word that's describing something measurable in some way, some unit of measurement. And you know what? The only book I have on my shelves that works for this, I initially said wouldn't work for hard mode, but it would now that I think about it. And that is 12 Nights at Rotterhouse by J.W. Ocker. 12 is obviously a number, but also I would count nights as a quantitative word. So I think in my original video, I said I owned this, but it wouldn't count towards hard mode. And it technically would. I would count this. So I do still own this, and now this is my planned book for it. Initially, I planned to read Nosferatu by Joe Hill, but I kind of have no interest in reading that anymore. So gonna read this one. Next one is Satanic Panic. So this is a book that is pretty much talking about anything that is considered occult. The hard mode version is that there is some type of physical item used in the book. I don't know if any of these will count towards hard mode, but they do all count towards occult. I don't know which one I'm going to read yet, but I have 3 options actually. I think that most likely I will use Last Days by Adam Neville. This is about a film crew that goes to pretty much document cults, and it even mentions that they are doing occult rituals. So I will probably most likely use this one. But another option I have is potentially Lost in the Garden by Adam S. Leslie. This I think is a cult book that's taking place in like English countryside or something. Pretty much gives Midsommar vibes, so this might count. And then one of my initial planned books was Negative Space by B.R. Yeager. Still do own this, obviously, and I would still use it for this spot, but most likely I will probably read one of the other 2 before I read this one. Next spot was book club pick, and there was no hard mode version for this. This was just a book that was part of a book club that you read, so I already filled this out with This Is Where We Talk Things Out by Caitlin Marcoux. I actually read this with my book club that I did have with my Patreon. After that, we have Pink Horror, and this is a horror book where one of the main themes surrounds kind of girlhood or womanhood, a very feminist-centric type of horror book. And hard mode was that it was a debut novel. This book was a reread for me, but I ended up filling it out with The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monica Kim. Next space is multiple POVs, so this is a book that has multiple POVs in it, and the hard mode was that it also had multiple timelines. I did accomplish hard mode for this one by reading through The Midnight Door by Katrina Monroe. Don't necessarily recommend the book, but it works for the spot. And then down to the very last row, the first one is As Seen on the Big Screen. So this is a book that has either a show or movie adaptation, and hard mode is that you have not seen that show or movie adaptation. I have not filled this one out yet, and I don't remember what my initial plan was for this spot, but I currently have 2 more options on my physical TBR. Well, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, We Used to Live Here would work for that spot, because there will be a movie coming out on it. So I guess I could move that book there. So then I would just have to find another genre blend, and I did actually recently buy Phantasma, which is like a horror romantasy. So I might do that. I might end up moving We Used to Live Here to this spot and then read Phantasma and then put that in that other spot, but we'll see. I might do that. It depends if I read Phantasma or if I read one of my 2 other options for this spot. The first one I have is 1922 by Stephen King. This is a nice shorty, but I did see the movie, so it wouldn't count towards hard mode for me. But then I do also have Eileen by Otessa Moshfegh, and this is slated to have a movie adaptation in the works. So, oh, well, actually, maybe they already made it, because this even says right on it, now a major motion picture. So maybe it's already made. I didn't think it was made yet, but who knows, maybe it is. But this is another option I have. Next spot was Out of Your Comfort Zone. So this was a horror book in a subgenre that you don't typically read, and hard mode was that you have read from the author before. So I did accomplish this with hard mode by reading Brainworms by Alison Rumfitt. I have previously read her other work, Tell Me I'm Worthless, and I knew going into Brainworms it was going to have a little bit of a cosmic element going on as well as an extreme element going on, and both cosmic and extreme horror are not ones that I typically read, so this book worked for that spot. My original planned book was one by Andrew Van Way. I can't even think of the title right now, but I'll have it up here. And again, I was going to read that through Kindle Unlimited, but again, I don't have Kindle Unlimited anymore, and that I was picking because it also had cosmic elements going on, but obviously I'm not going to read that one now. The next spot is short story collection, and for hard mode, the book should include more than 12 stories. I did start my planned book for this, which was Human Monsters, which is an anthology with a bunch of different stories and authors in it, but I don't think I will finish it because it's very long. I think I've gotten like 5 or 6 stories into it, and I just really wasn't feeling most of the stories, and I set it down and I just have had no desire to pick it back up. But again, this is a spot that's particularly hard for me that I put on the board to be a challenge for myself because I have so many short story collections and I never pick them up. But clearly having it on this board has not helped me, but I do have 3 other short story collections that I could potentially use, but again, this is a spot that I may or may not ever fill out. But I do have Flowers from the Void by Gianna Washington. This does not have more than 12 stories, so this would just be easy mode, but I do own this. Then I have After the People Lights Have Gone Off by Stephen Graham Jones. I actually don't even know how many stories are in this. Oh, you know what? There actually is more than 12 stories in this one. So this could count for hard mode if I ever decide to pick it up. And then I do also have Root Rot and Other Grim Tales by Sarah Reed. I've had this for a very long time, and I know that this will not count for hard mode. But yeah, those are 3 short story collections I currently have that I really either just need to read them or get rid of them, honestly. The next spot is TBR Vet. So this is a book that has been on either your physical TBR or your digital TBR, or just like on your radar in general for a very long time. Hard mode was that it was like a true TBR Vet because you've had it for like over 2 years, or it's like one of the oldest books on your TBR, depending on when you started reading. My original planned book for this was It by Stephen King, and I do still plan to use that one. I recently got the audiobook. That one's so intimidating for me, which is why it's a TBR Vet. I keep not wanting to pick it up because it's so chunky, but I do still plan to get to that and use it for this spot. And then the very last spot on the board is Creepy Crawlies. So this is a book that features creepy crawlies in it, whether that be bugs, snakes, birds. Honestly, it doesn't have to just be like insects. It could be whatever type of creature is like creepy and crawly to you. And the hard mode was that the creepy crawly was featured on the book. So I did accomplish this on hard mode, and for it I used The Queen by Nick Cutter. This book had a lot of bug stuff going on in it, and there is a bee on the cover. I think actually my original plan was to use brainworms for this spot, and it would work there too, but it just worked out better in my favor to have that in a different spot. So that is it. Those are all of the books that I have read and now currently plan to read for my horror bingo card. I've currently filled out 14 of the 25 spots, so I have 11 spots to go if I want to black out the board. Will I do it? Odds are pretty low, honestly, but I might be able to still get at least a bingo because I technically haven't even gotten a bingo yet. I have been posting other people's boards where they tag me in them on Instagram if you want to check those out. If you were partaking in this challenge, let me know how it went for you or how it is still going for you if you're still working on it. And for those wondering, yes, I am going to be doing another horror bingo card. I'm currently working on it. I have quite a few new spots that I'm really excited for that I think will be really fun, but that is going to be everything for today's video. As always, thank you so much for spending some of your time with me while I sit down and talk about books. If you haven't yet, please give the video a like, subscribe for future content, turn on the bell notification, all the fun YouTube things that help your girl out, and I will catch you guys in the next video.